Well, good morning. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone enjoyed their holiday break. Tyler, you enjoyed yourself this Labor Day weekend? Did you? Okay. No, I did not see your Instagram pictures. No, I did not see your Instagram. Hopefully you went somewhere nice, okay? Well, folks, I want to welcome you to our weekly update. As I stated in the past, that I would come before you and give an update of what's going on here in City Hall, and also avail myself to questions as well. So let's get started. I'm going to start today's update on gun violence prevention initiatives here at the City of Richmond, especially after last week's Risk Forum. As a reminder, we declared gun violence as a public health crisis back in 2021. And it was passed with the unanimous vote of the Richmond City Council. As part of this declaration, we brought together a diverse group of stakeholders to assist with creating what became the Gun Violence Prevention and Intervention Framework. We call that GVPI. We listened, we engaged the community, and also engaged subject matter experts as well. And as part of that strategy, we've implemented a group violence intervention. But to be clear, the working group we convened did not recommend we solely implement gun violence intervention, nor did the former or current police chief. So instead, we shaped our framework based on our community, not a cookie cutter, but how do we go about framing a strategy that fits the city of Richmond. And that is why, since we declared that emergency, we have heavily invested and leaned into programs like the Positive Youth Development Fund, in which we've invested $3.5 million since 2022. We created We Matter RVA, which we've invested $1.4 million in since 2021. We created the Trauma Response Network, which we've invested $1.3 million invested since 2022. We created the Richmond Community Mediators Program, which is violence interrupters. We created Operation Safe Summer, which we implemented earlier this year in 2024. And we also launched the Richmond's Real-Time Crime Center as well. Now, these efforts are just a fraction of what we're doing to tackle gun violence. You see, we are talking about a both-and approach versus an either-or approach. We believe that we have to be tough on crime, and we have to be tough on the root causes of crime as well. This is truly a whole government approach. This is a whole community approach. And in 2022, we released the GVPI report, which describes the various components of our GVPI framework and also our core initiatives, some of which I already just mentioned. In 2023, we provided updates on those initiatives in a new report. And both reports are available at rva.gov. And we've been very transparent about our efforts since they started, and the Richmond City Council has stood with us on these efforts every step of the way, approving our budget proposals and various grant contracts as well. So today, I specifically want to provide an update on page 33 of the 2023 report. We described in it what we called the Richmond's first Office of Gun Violence Prevention. Now, firstly, after further engaging the GVPI steering committee, we decided to change the name of that office to the Office of Neighborhood Safety. Now, the office works to strengthen coordination, capacity building, and partnerships to address the root causes of violence and to advance policies and practices within communities that have been historically impacted by gun violence. In other words, the office leads to the root causes of violence. That's the portion of the GVP efforts I think are very, very important to a lot of our communities. The reason I bring that up is because I believe there was just a little bit misinformation stated at the Risk Forum that we don't have an Office of Gun Violence Prevention. We do. And it's called the Office of Neighborhood Safety. In this office, we have hired a manager, Alex Krupp, who will provide an oversight of this office and its team. We also have hired an office coordinator, Lamont Barnes, who will be the city's point person for implementing recommendations and initiatives and coordinating the multidisciplinary work of this team. Now, before I conclude this update, I want to reiterate what I've said time and time again, and is that we will never solve gun violence overnight. We didn't get here overnight. We're not going to be able to fix the problem of gun violence that unfortunately ravages cities like ours all throughout the United States. It takes a collaborative approach. It takes many stakeholders. It takes people in different sectors, public, private, nonprofit, government, all coming together to address this issue. And quite frankly, at the core of this issue is that there are too many damn guns in our community. Too many guns. Way too accessible. And so for those who do own a gun, I ask that you be responsible and lock up your gun. Don't lock your gun in your glove compartment because your car is not a safe. And a lot of the guns that unfortunately end up in crimes in neighborhoods throughout our city are stolen from unlocked cars or people just simply breaking in and vandalizing vehicles. So lock up your gun, do your part, and if anyone wants to review our gun violence prevention intervention framework, you can go to rva.gov. Next, I want to tackle the issue of affordable housing and talk a little about our affordable housing efforts here in the city of Richmond. As you all know, we declared an affordable housing crisis here in the city in March of 2023. I was joined by members of the Richmond City Council when we did that. And in that resolution, we reiterated our goal of creating 1,000 affordable housing units per year, and we dedicated certain funds to assist us in doing that. As a reminder, we have dedicated $50 million over the course of a 5-year period. And we were able to attain a match of another $50 million from LISC out of New York for that same 5-year period. That means we have $100 million devoted to affordable housing in the city of Richmond over a 5-year period. And on top of that, thank you to President Biden and those in Congress, we were been able to add $20 million from the American Rescue Plan Act to affordable housing projects as well. So that's $120 million to our efforts. For a little context, when I came into office back in 2017, we were only dedicating roughly $700,000 per year to affordable housing. Let me repeat that. In 2017, when I started off as mayor, we were only devoting $700,000 to affordable housing. So today, I'm proud to share that with the millions that we've already spent dedicated towards affordable housing and our innovative affordable housing performance grant program, we are exceeding our annual affordable housing goals. For example, in 2023, we funded the creation of 3,169 affordable housing units. Since 2017, we have created over 5,000 new units of affordable housing right here in the city of Richmond, and we are not stopping there. City Council is officially back next Monday, back from their summer recess, and they will have a full docket of items that they will take up. A lot of those items were generated by us, the administration. And there are many things to highlight there, but I want to focus particularly, put on you all's radar, the affordable housing performance grant contracts that we will be introducing. Since October of 2023, our Department of Housing and Community Development has been collaborating with the Richmond Economic Development Authority, and we've introduced, and the City Council has approved, 11 affordable housing performance grants. And I'm pleased to share that next Monday, we will be introducing an additional 7 grants to the Richmond City Council. That's 7 grants being introduced all at one time. This will bring the total units created through the grant program to 3,277 new units because of this performance grant program. Now, this goes to show that the developer community has heard our plea and has taken notice and is using this tool to help alleviate our current housing crisis. Now, the program is designed to induce the private development of new, affordable, multifamily units by providing annual grants to offset a development's incremental real estate tax burden for an initial 15-year period, with the potential for an additional 15 years of benefit. Now, having tools like this in our toolbox, along with our dedicated funding streams, are game changers in this fight to ensure that people have a roof over their heads. Outside of just investments and subsidy, I also think it's very, very important that we streamline the way we go about providing permits to these projects. I believe, and I think a lot of cities around the country are doing this, you need not just to invest and subsidize the development of affordable housing, but also you have to streamline the bureaucracy, and you also have to work on regulation. I'm very proud that next year, the City Council and the next administration will take on the upzoning of Richmond. What I mean by upzoning is neighborhoods who currently only have single-family zoning will be allowed to consider upzoning their neighborhood. So when we build new housing, it can be a duplex, a triplex, multifamily, you name it. Right now, I firmly believe that there are certain neighborhoods in this city who are essentially invisible gated communities because of single-family zoning. The ability for us to upzone throughout the city, some of our former industrial areas, will reduce the amount of special use permits that will come to City Council, come to the Planning Commission, and reduce the amount of time in which we have an opportunity to build more affordable housing in Richmond. Let's talk a little bit about the streamlining of the bureaucracy, though, to ensure that we can bring more units to bear. We started working on reforming the permit office in my first year. And I shared before, we've addressed long-standing challenges in our permitting office to streamline the addition of new residential and commercial buildings, and it shows. Since 2021, our permitting team has reduced the weekly backlog of residential permit applications by 80%, and commercial permit applications, that backlog has been reduced by 70%. You will no longer have to wait month after month for approvals. And in fact, now the average turnaround time for permit applications is down to less than 10 business days. 10 business days. There was a time when you had to wait months on end to get a permit, whether commercial or residential. Sometimes it was like 9 months sometimes for some people. Now the average is 10 business days. And let me also just describe what the permitting office deals with. They deal with folks who want to add an addition to their home, right? They want to add a deck. They want to add a new dining room onto their home. But they also receive applications for folks to build, 15-story residential buildings as well. So it is a diverse amount of applications that come through our permitting office, and I'm grateful for their hard work. You all know the streamlining of this office will allow for us to build more units and allow for more businesses to open as quickly as possible, which means more dollars in the coffers of the city of Richmond quickly. So with that, I'll wrap up my updates and I'll take some questions.
Questions? Tyler?
Hey, Tyler.
So we had some information that finance employees are being asked to sign NDAs. And I want to preface this with I checked with Chesterfield and Henrico. Their finance employees also signed an acknowledgement that they've read the Virginia code that protects taxpayer information. But where the city's NDA is a little bit different is that it goes a little further and says you can't discuss any information obtained during the course of your employment regarding anything, including the business, of the city of Richmond. So I just wanted to ask, because as you know, there has been some inside information that has, been shared with folks on the outside. Was this used as a measure to get employees not to share information with those on the outside?
I think it was used as a measure to ensure accountability and protect the taxpayers. There's some, as I said in my last update, I believe there is some sensitive information that comes to our offices each and every day. I forget the number, was 70,000, I believe. Checks are processed right here at 900 East Broad Street. And so with that, we need folks who are willing to comply and ensure that we are protecting that data, protecting the taxpayer as well. And as I've stated in the past, for a vast majority of those who work in the finance department, they do that. They do that. And I'm grateful for those who actually follow suit in their commitment to ensuring that we're protecting the taxpayer. As I stated in the past, if you cannot live up to that standard, then you're more than likely you won't be working here at 900 East Broad Street.
And so are you expecting that these city workers are not to share literally anything about their jobs at all?
I would say if I'm a person who signed that agreement and I worked in that department, was dealing with sensitive information, I would follow what the words say on that agreement.
And did this come about because of the news stories about leaked audio and employees coming forward?
I can't tell you when or where that was developed, but like I said, if I'm an employee and I signed that agreement, I would live up to the words that were in that agreement.
Okay, I have one other question if you don't mind.
You want to? Yeah, sure.
So this week when Ms. Sheila White shared her presentation with the City Council about the finance updates, she gave credit in part to Ann Seward, the consultant that's been brought up to make a lot of these sweeping changes. Of course, consultants are very expensive, and I'm sure she's getting paid very well. I'm wondering, because you said you have tons of confidence in Ms. White's ability to do the job and that she can turn the ship around, why the consultant was necessary?
Well, number one, the question was why was the consultant necessary in the finance department? Well, number one, if we consider this a problem, right, which many of us do, not only those who work here at the City of Richmond, but also those in the community consider a problematic department that needs fixing, that needs investment, that needs reform, then I'm going to do everything I can to get it right. And if a director needs more help, more high-level help from a subject matter expert like Ms. Seward, then I'm going to give them that help. And she has the help to do so, and I think whether it's Ann Seward or whether it's Sheila White, they're doing an amazing job in terms of turning this department around from the bottom up. When I first started out in 2017, some of you do not have this knowledge, but I'm going to impart this on you. There was a time when we could not even submit our annual financial reports on time. Years we could not submit the financial reports on time. And what does that mean? That means that we could not tell the public, we could not tell Wall Street exactly what we were spending our money on. We could not present the receipt. In 2017, we started turning those in on time. We had a low tax collection rate back in 2016, 2017. And the priority of my first term was we were going to turn those reports in on time, check, that we were going to actually start collecting more taxes, business taxes, commercial taxes, residential taxes, meaning if you hadn't paid your taxes, we were going to fine you as well. We raised the tax collection rate to match what was going on, not just here in the region, but what was going on throughout the Commonwealth. Check. The last 4 years, post the pandemic, has been focused on how do we go about reforming this department so it's not problematic for the next mayor, and the next mayor, and the next mayor. Now, I'll tell you this. Reform is not easy. Reform can be quite painful, but it's necessary. It's like we have to eat our vegetables, and we're eating our vegetables now.
So she also mentioned, the 15.
This is your third question.
She mentioned the 15 years of leadership turnover and just kind of disaster and chaos.
It was an honest depiction.
Absolutely.
Honest depiction.
It was incredibly candid. You were the mayor for 8 of those years. Does that mean a lot of that was your fault?
As I just stated, the first 4 years we had certain priorities. Turning in those financial reports on time. Because of the inability to turn those financial reports in, we weren't able to actually upgrade our credit rating on Wall Street. Moody's, Fitch, S&P. Essentially, when I met with them in Wall Street, it was like, you got to get this fixed. This is bad for the city. Think about cities or localities that just don't turn in the report. We turn those on in on time now. We weren't collecting collecting the taxes. I can't fund programs that I care about, public schools, social services, you name it, if we're not collecting the revenue to do so. That was a top priority. Then the second term, as I stated, we focused on full reform of the department, filling in the personnel holes that we had because of the pandemic, gutted the employee, the personnel here in the city. People moved on to different opportunities. Understand that. People didn't want to come into City Hall anymore as well. They wanted to change the way they work, working from home, things of that nature. So we brought in quality people like Sheila White, Sabrina Joy Hogg as well, and Seward as a consultant to reform the department from the bottom up. And I think they're doing that.
So yesterday was obviously a tragedy in Georgia. Today, we know that Cameras has requested there to be an increase in police presence in some Richmond public schools. What's your response to that, and is there anything you want to add about that conversation?
The question was about the tragedy that occurred yesterday, and that Mr. Cameras has asked for more police presence at Richmond Public Schools. Well, first, let me be very candid with you. I am tired of seeing kids, unfortunately, being slaughtered in their own schools. It hits differently now when you have a child, and I have a child. I cannot imagine my little girl going to school and not coming back. And unfortunately, this is the same story that occurs in America year in and year out. And there is only one party that is really focused on changing that. And we just had a person announced for lieutenant governor today who is backed by the NRA and does nothing to prevent your child from walking into a school and not being killed. When is enough going to be enough? That's the question I have for those who legislate across the street in the General Assembly and those in Congress as well. We have certainly made progress on some of these common sense gun safety laws, but it's not enough. We've got to do more. If we can freaking put a person on the moon or send, a shuttle into outer space, well, we can't fix the fact that kids are dropping dead in neighborhoods in Richmond, in neighborhoods in the inner city, but also in suburbs and rural areas of America, in their schools. So, I could spend all day telling you how I feel about those who refuse to ensure that kids come home safely after going to school in the morning. We could be here all day to talk about that. And I find those who don't support common sense gun safety laws as cowards. How many more kids have to die? How many more kids have to die?
Quick question. I reached out to the Office of Communications this week to ask whether the city had investigated an allegation that excess business tax had been retained and that accounts that had been overpaid, the account holders weren't informed. The OSC got back to me and said there was an investigation into that. The city cleared it. They said they followed all the appropriate regulations, and that businesses self-report. So if there are overpayments, it's sort of on them. I wanted to see if you could tell me who had conducted that investigation. I wasn't sure what agency.
Who conducted the investigation?
Yeah, the OSC said that allegation had been investigated. The city had been cleared that they followed the regulations. I just want to know who conducted that investigation.
I know that. I don't know. So has Sabrina or someone over at the Office of Communications responded to your question yet?
They've answered the questions about the allegation investigation itself. They didn't clarify who had conducted that.
I think if you send them an email back and asking for that clarification, I'm pretty sure they'll give you who conducted the investigation.
Quick follow-up,
Sure.
if I may. In a July 17th audit committee meeting, the Inspector General, Jim Osuna, said he had received legal advice not to investigate that allegation because it wasn't within the purview of his office.
Mm-hmm.
The city attorney's office says they did not give that advice. Do you know what the reason for the discrepancy in accounts might be?
You're going to have to speak to the Inspector General about that. I got a lot of respect for the Inspector General, but also know that City Council doesn't want me telling their employees what to do, and I wouldn't want the city council telling my employees what to do. And so in this form of government, the inspector general works for the city council, and either you can have a conversation directly with him, or you can have a conversation with those who lead the city council. Hello, Maddie.
Hey, hey. So at a recent mayoral candidate forum, there were some, I think they were asked to give you a grade for your performance. I'm pretty sure the highest mark you got was a C+. Anything you want to say to them? Any response to that?
I will say, as a person who's been involved in public service for the last decade, it's a whole lot easier to talk about doing the job than actually doing the job. I'll leave that at that.
That's all we got. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.